What I'm going to try to do today is show you how we could accelerate how we're building Teradata MCP agents. So what I have here is Claude Desktop, and really everything I've built here was originally built in Claude Code, but I've migrated across to Claude Desktop so that you can, those of you that have got Claude Desktop could start doing this. So I'm using this project capability. So if I create a project and if I call it my stats agent, so give it a name, create the project. Then the real trick to it is that I'm going to bring these two documents here, this meta MD and the documents Teradata MCP document here. And if we just looked at it, the purpose of the doc Teradata MCP is this is a definition of the Teradata MCP server with all of the tools that are available. And if we look at the meta MD file, the meta MD file is what we're going to use to actually generate our agent. So if you come in and look at this, it kind of describes the steps to building an agent and then what an agent instructions should then end up looking like. So to initiate this is really easy. So you just read at meta.md and build me an agent that collects statistics from a Teradata system. Statistics. Okay. And really what this is doing is, so my agent description at the moment is not very comprehensive. So what you're going to see here is that it'll read that meta MD file, and it's going to come back and ask me a bunch of clarifying questions. And I'm going to have to give it a bunch of clarifying answers. And, you know, sometimes you will know all the answers, sometimes you won't. And I'll show you how to kind of deal with both of those. And the intention is that at the end of it, it will actually then produce a very specific agent file, MD file, that we could then use as a sub agent. And you can see here that, you know, it's got a bunch of discovery questions. And what we should go through is the purpose of the use case, the main goal, yeah. So we're going to say performance is the main goal. Statistics scope, focus on performance metrics. The agent should identify when stats are stale and need updating. Should also identify when stats have not been collected. You should be looking at tables across the entire database. You can ignore the system databases, but focus on databases that have been created by users. How should the agent present the collected statistics? The agent should be defining the agent.md file. I might just call it, because I think agent.md has a very specific meaning. So now the stats-agent.md file. Automated filtering, blah, 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 technical constraints. Where you do not have enough details, create defaults that are managed in a configuration so that they can be changed if required. All right. So I'm expecting that this should then kind of go away and then come back and probably ask me some more questions. I might have been able to preempt some of those questions, but that last little bit, where you do not have enough details, create defaults, that's kind of quite a handy way of doing it. So, they can see they've got a few more technical questions. What age of status? Stats style after 7 days. For high, you see for high changing tables, and after 30 days for low changing tables. Should this vary by table? That's what we just did. Should we have okay, cool. Which system data should we specify to exclude? DBC. Yeah, you can exclude the list you have there. Enable me to add more databases if needed. Statistics details to check. Let's focus on indexes. So having a look through these, action output, should the agent just report, da, da, da. And you can see it's asking me a lot of different questions, and I don't have the answers to a lot of this. For all other questions, you can create the default position. All right, so let's see if that kind of goes through and gets us to where we want. And the intention of this question and answering is it's asking you these questions so that you're actually thinking about what this agent is trying to do, and it's going to start building out all of these things here. So in this particular case, I'm going to always allow this. I can see what it's doing. It's actually building a sub-agent for me here. And we are going to always allow that as well. And this will continue to go on. And what it should be doing is it should be going through and looking at how it actually builds out this agent script. It'll take a little bit of time. these things usually takes a little bit of time. So we will. You'll notice also that I've got it on extended thinking mode. And the reason I have it on extending thinking mode is because I want it to be very deliberate in its how it's thinking. Now I can see here that the spec has been created and this looks like the agent. I can see the structure is what I would want it to be, to have a name and a purpose. And here's the sort of the details of this. So if I allow that to happen, what I'm really expecting off the back of this is for it to generate two files. One file is going to be the specification file. And the reason I get it to write out the specification file, and here's my specification kind of, do I approve this? Yes, is because if I want to change that specification later on and then regenerate the actual agent file, it's kind of easier if you already start with the specification file. So you can just build upon that rather than having to do everything from scratch. So I tend to kind of build a specification and then I build the actual agent. They end up looking really similar to one another, I think you'll find. But what I'm finding is really good with this approach is now I have a way of a way to go to a subject matter expert and really engage with the subject matter expert on that question answer component on the review of the specification so that I can then generate what the actual agent subfile will end up looking like. And the agent subfile is going to be something that you can then run from, any sort of agentic environment. We don't have to run it within Claude. I think it'll probably end up running better within Claude, but it will then certainly give you the ability to kind of run it in other environments as well. It'll probably require a bit of tuning in with other models, but that seems to be what I would expect. So we're still going to allow that to use. Okay, fine. And a lot of what you're doing here is really just trying to get it to build out here. And you can see these are the two files. Both files should be in my code directory, so I'd be intrigued if they are in my code directory. I know, here they are. Here's my stats agent file, and here's the spec. And the reason, like I said, is the spec allows you to change it and you can always sort of redefine this agent file. And if we kind of come in here and have a look, we will be able to, if I open the stats agent, here's the stats agent, and you'll just have to ignore all this other noise that I have here. We'll get rid of that, and we'll just get rid of that, and we will get rid of that. And you can now see that I've built this Teradata stats agent, and it has a real sort of look and feel to it that is quite purposeful. So this is kind of my metadata level. Here's the purpose. Here's the instructions, and you can see the instructions. You go through a particular set of steps. It's actually got a configuration file, so I could modify this configuration file if I wanted to. And then it starts going through. And what I like about it is because I fed the Teradata MCP information, it now knows that I use particular Teradata MCP tools to actually do certain functions. So, it gets the databases, gets the list of tables. Within each of those tables, it's going to collect certain metrics. Now, we won't know if this is going to be a successful piece of SQL until I go away and test it. And then, I could refine it over a couple of iterations. But it's going to slowly kind of work its way through to figure out which ones need statistics collected, assigning certain priorities, estimating the efforts, generating the report, and has a number of different best practices and et cetera, and it kind of goes on for a little bit. This is what you would expect when you ran it, is that it is going to start collecting certain statistics on tables. And really, the reason that I think this meta agent to build agents is useful is because the meta agent is giving structure to the agent that it's actually building. I know that that's a bit of a mouthful, but the reality is when you're building agents, you need them to have a particular structure, and it's that structure and that way of interacting and having interactive discussion to get the requirements so that you can build the structure that is really important here. So what I liked about this more than anything is we have this massive opportunity in 2026. We need to be able to build agents for our customers, and we need to be able to do that reasonably quickly. We are not necessarily going to be the subject matter experts on everything. So this meta agent idea allows me to go and have a conversation with a customer, show them how agents can work and how MCP can work with agents. And then it gives you a way of being able to say, all right, now that you actually understand MCP and how that's bringing out context from the database, we can now have this discussion around how you can build your own agents. And these meta agents can be used to build like a DBA kind of agent, which is what I've done here, a DBA sub-agent, but it could also be used to build a business sub-agent. So there's a lot of opportunity. Really, the intention is, can we build agents and the definitions of agents a whole lot faster with a lot more capabilities? And this is what I'm trying to do with the meta agent. Okay, that's all I have for you today.